The topic that we will tackle about today is all about gender and activism. At the end of the lesson, we should be able to first discuss heteronormativity and manifestations, and second, appreciate the contribution of activism in social change. The definition of terms activism means collection efforts to shape and transform political, socio-cultural, and other environmental status quo. Participation. It means contributing in transforming social realities by engaging and taking part in various aspects of an initiative or reform. In collaboration. It means working together towards a goal. Our society is advocating towards equal rights for everyone through the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or the UDHR, which was drafted in 1948 by all countries that are members of the United Nations. It acknowledges that everyone, including LGBT people, is equal in dignity and in rights. Although most countries no longer punish or outlaw homosexuality, there is still much to be done for the LGBT people to fully enjoy their human rights. Understanding heteronormativity. Heteronormativity means relating to or based on the attitude that heterosexuality is the only normal and natural expression of sexuality, which was defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Put more simply, it is when we assume that everyone is heterosexual or straight, that it is the standard for everyone. With a heteronormative point of view, straight people are placed at a privileged group by viewing them as the standard or normal. Anyone who does not adhere to that standard are viewed as lesser, like women who love women, or what we call the lesbians. Men who love men are what we call the gays. People who love men or women are the bisexuals. People who feel that they do not belong to their biological sex or the transgender. There are people who reject the notion of gender binaries for being male or female, masculine or feminine. Heteronormativity has been so ingrained in our social and political institutions that it has almost become invisible. Most people unknowingly subscribe to heteronormative standards just because that is the way it has always been for them, like assigning blue for boys and pink for girls. But what happens when a boy wants pink toys? Well, they are reprimanded and criticized in a process called normalization. This normalization limits a person's choices and freedoms. For the LGBT, it means they are marginalized, treated as inferior, discriminated on, branded as abnormal, and are treated as second-class citizens. This leads to homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, prejudice, discrimination, violence, and other hostile acts towards the LGBT people. One example of heteronormative violence is the murder of the LGBT men and women during the Nazi Holocaust. In present day, it means punishing LGBT children for expressing who they are or being vocal about who they are attracted to. In the workplace, it could mean being fined or not being promoted just because you're not straight. At home, it could mean being disowned by your family because you're LGBT, or being bullied by your family because you're not masculine enough or feminine enough. In politics, it manifests in policies denying LGBT their freedom, such as anti-sodomy laws in many countries where being LGBT is a crime punishable by imprisonment or death. It could also mean the absence of laws by that would let LGBT live a full life, like being able to marry the person they want to marry, or enjoying the same rights and privileges that straight families have. Challenging heteronormativity through activism. Heteronormativity is a social construct, and history has proven society's changing attitudes on homosexuality. History showed us the egalitarian acceptance of homosexuality in the ancient hunter-gatherer civilizations, the violent erasure of the gender deviance, and condemnation of homosexuality with the spread of Abrahamic religion, which was the Jews, Christians, Muslims, and other religions who believe in one God, the God of Abraham. LGBT activism have had various social movements to advocate for LGBT people's equal rights. In 2000s, liberation in 1960s to 1970s, and self-acceptance through the homophile movement in the 1950s. These social movements engage in political and social activism through street rallies, pride marches, law lobbying, engaging the media, arts, research, and many other activities that empower the LGBT community. Dissent is so powerful, it can make significant changes in our society, breaking the culture of silence in the daily heteronormative violence that are committed and condoned by society. It's the first step towards social change. We can start by refusing to participate in heteronormative violence towards LGBT and participating in various events for the LGBT community. So these are the some events of LGBT people. In May 17, it is International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. And in May 31, it is International Transgender Day of Visibility. And in November 20, it is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And in June, it is the June Pride Month. So the summary of our lesson about gender and activism. Heteronormativity as a social construct can be undone through activism. Social change may not be something that happens right away, but decades of LGBT struggles proven that change can happen. You do not have to be an LGBT to fight for equal rights. You just have to be a human being who believes in freedom and equality for all. So that's all. Thank you.